Hello, my name is Joe Clark. I'm a spiritual healer based in Oceanside, California. You can learn more about me and my services at my website, josephclark-spiritualflourishing.com. And the method I'm going to teach today is called limbic grounding. You can find this and other helpful mindfulness methods in my book, Soul, Supportive Guidance for Healing and Awakening. And Soul is available for purchase at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and authorhouse.com. Now, before we get into the method itself today, I'd like to review 4 touchstones of successful practice. These are good principles to keep in mind to help you get the most out of your mindfulness practice. The first key to success in your mindfulness practice is commitment, resolving to practice, choosing to actually do it. And by showing up today, you've done exactly that. The second touchstone of successful practice is consistency, practicing regularly. I invite you to see your mindfulness practice much like a fitness routine. If you think about activities like jogging, swimming, and lifting weights, you're going to benefit far more from these activities the more consistently you do them. And a mindfulness practice is much the same way. The third key to success in your mindfulness practice is flow. This has to do with the difficulty level of your practice. I invite you today, don't make your practice too hard and don't make your practice too easy. Try to find a more sustainable groove right in the middle. So if you find yourself making the practice too hard, if you notice that you're straining or you're struggling to do it, ease up. And as you ease up, let yourself find a more sustainable pace in the middle. And likewise, if your practice is getting too easy, if you notice you're only giving it a fraction of your attention, you're kind of just going through the motions, focus. And use that focus to finesse your energy into that groove in the middle. And the fourth key to success in your mindfulness practice is friendship. Be good to yourself. We engage in these mindfulness practices as a gift to ourselves and to others. Let that truth be reflected in the manner in which you practice. I invite you as you practice today to be good to yourself in the spirit of friendship. And one way to summarize what I just said there with the touchstones is this quote from the mindfulness teacher Chula Dasa. In his book, The Mind Illuminated, he wrote that when it comes to a mindfulness practice, success comes through repetition with a relaxed attitude, rather than from effortful striving. And so if at any point in your practice today you find yourself asking, how hard should I be working at this? How much effort and focus should I be applying? This is a great line to come back to. Repetition with a relaxed attitude. Last preliminary matter for today is posture. I invite you to cultivate a healthy and comfortable posture. And to do that, here are 4 good posture goals to keep in mind. First, let your posture be aligned. I invite you to notice your pelvis. Notice the pelvis supporting the spine. Notice the spine supporting the neck. Notice the neck supporting the head. And as you notice these 4 areas, the pelvis, the spine, the neck, and the head, let them come into a natural and comfortable alignment with one another. The second good posture goal to keep in mind is balance. One way to cultivate balance in your posture is gently rock your body forward and backwards, then to the right, then to the left. Then let your body settle into a natural balance point between those extremes. A third good posture goal is openness. If you notice your posture feels closed or shut in any way, let your posture gently open, like a blossom to the light. And the fourth posture goal for today is softness. I invite you to relax, release tension in your body, and let your body settle into a soft and steady state. All right, the method I'm going to teach you today is called limbic grounding. This is a great method to use when you find yourself stuck in loops. We can loop in a variety of ways. You may find yourself looping around the same thought over and over again. This may last for minutes, hours, sometimes even days or weeks. You might find yourself looping in the same memories again and again and again. They just keep coming back, one after another after another. Those same memories, it's like you can't escape them. A third way we get in looping is in activity. You may notice yourself looping, for example, through the kitchen, through the same areas again and again and again. And when we get stuck in these loops of thought, these loops of memory, these loops of activity, it can start to feel like a carousel that we can't get off. And our life can begin to feel more robotic and hollow and meaningless. This technique will help you break that looping, reconnect with the present moment by helping you connect with the density and simplicity of the body. Now, I call this limbic grounding because what we're going to do is we're going to consciously redirect your energy out of the center line of your body and into your limbs. And let me explain why we're going to do that. If you think about the center line of your body, your head, your chest, your belly, and down into the upper part of the waist and the pelvis, this is like a bustling metropolis. It's like downtown Tokyo, downtown New York. There is so much going on here, right? We've got the brain in our heads. Did you know you also have neurons in the area of your heart and in the area of your gut? So you could say you have 3 brains running down the center line of your body, constantly operating with nervous activity. Down the spinal column, we also have the spinal cord, a thick bundle of nervous fibers, almost like a superhighway or a super freeway running right down the middle of our body. Also in this area of the body, this center line, this area of the head and the torso, we have a lot of vital organs, the lungs, the heart, the kidneys, the liver, just to name a few, the entire digestive system. These are constantly operating, constantly drawing power, constantly sending signals. And that makes this center line of our body this hotbed of activity, this bustling metropolis. And if our energy gets stuck here, it's kind of like if we've been in the city too long. We get caught up in the hustle and bustle and we forget the simplicity of things. Now, if the center line of our body is like a bustling metropolis, our limbs, our arms and our legs, they're much more like a quiet countryside, a little brook running through the trees. They're so much simpler, so much quieter, so much calmer. We don't have vital organs housed in this area. We don't have neurons in this area. And while we do have nervous fibers running through the area, it's nowhere near as intense as that spinal cord running down the center line of the body. So what this technique is going to help you do today, the way it's going to break that looping, it's going to pull energy away from the center line of your body out into the limbs. And in that way, it's going to take your energy from that bustling, hotbed, nervous metropolis state into that quiet, soothing, mellow countryside state where we can unwind and let some of those loops unravel themselves. Now I'm going to teach you 3 methods of limbic grounding today. The first and the simplest method is this. We're going to do it together right now. I invite you, look at your limbs and feel them while you look. That's it. That's this method. It's that simple. Let's do it together piece by piece. Go and look at your arms. Look at your legs. Feel them from within. Sense their aliveness. Sense your ability to control them. Sense that at the snap of my fingers, you could flex them, you could wiggle them, you can move them around. Continue to look at your limbs and continue to feel them as you look. Let's spend about 30 more seconds doing that right now. Just look at your limbs, look at your arms, look at your legs. And as you look at them, feel them. Look and feel. Focus on the limbs. Good, about 10 more seconds. Look at the limbs and feel them. Beautiful. Just pause for a moment and notice how you're feeling. Notice any changes, even subtle changes in your thinking, your emotions, your general energetic state. If you do notice a difference, make a little mental note to yourself that this method helped bring about that change. Now we're going to do the second form of limbic grounding. This is more intensive than the first. This method involves looking, wiggling, and flexing. So I'm going to walk you through that step by step right now. What I invite you to do is look at your fingers. Wiggle your fingers. Now look down at your toes, or at least in their direction. Wiggle your toes. Nice job. Look at the muscles of your arm. Look at the muscles of the lower arm and the upper arm. And as you look at them, flex those arm muscles. Flex and unflex them. Nice job. Now similarly, look down at your leg muscles. Look at the muscles of the lower leg. Look at the muscles of the upper leg. And as you're looking at your leg muscles, flex and unflex them. And so we'll do about 30 more seconds with this one here. Just continue with those same activities, right? Continue looking, continue wiggling those digits, and then continue flexing and unflexing the muscles of the arms and the legs as you look at them. Beautiful. Nicely done. So just as before, just take a pause here before we move on. Check in with your energy, check in with your thoughts, check in with your emotions. Just see if you notice any differences, even subtle ones. If you do, make a mental note about how this method served you. That'll give you more encouragement to do it in the future to help yourself. All right, so the third and final method of this I'm going to teach you today is the most intensive of them all. This is called the elevator. I want you to think of this one as brake in case of emergency. You're stuck in those loops. You're feeling stuck in your mind. You really want to reconnect with your body, with the simplicity of your limbs. And maybe you tried those other two methods we just did, but this hurricane is just too intense. Those lighter methods aren't working. This is the method to turn to, the most intensive method of them all, to help yourself reconnect with that simplicity of the limbs, to break that looping and help yourself feel more grounded and present. So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to move through the limbs one area at a time, wiggling and flexing as we go. And this will maximize the grounding effect. I'm going to walk you through it step by step now. So to begin, go ahead and breathe 3 unhurried breaths, ideally inhaling through the nose. Beautiful. When those 3 unhurried breaths are done, we're going to start with the fingers and the toes. I invite you, let your hands settle down in the area of your feet so that you can look at your fingers and your toes at the same time, or at least in their general direction. Wiggle your fingers. Wiggle your fingers. Wiggle your fingers. Wiggle your toes. Wiggle your toes. wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. And now wiggle both fingers and toes at the same time. And do that for as long as you wish. Good. For efficiency's sake, I'm going to continue going, but just remember, you can continue that flexing motion, that wiggling motion, for as long as you want to maximize your grounding effect. So we move to the next bodily area. Let's breathe 3 unhurried breaths. This contributes to the grounding process. Good. And when those 3 unhurried breaths are done, I invite you to look at your hands and your feet at the same time, at least in their direction. Open and close your hands. Open and close your hands. Open and close your hands. Flex and unflex your feet. Flex and unflex your feet. Flex and unflex your feet. Open and close your hands. Flex and unflex your feet. Open and close your hands. Flex and unflex your feet. Open and close your hands. Flex and unflex your feet. Do both motions at the same time for as long as you wish. Good. Now I'm going to move on. Remember, you can just keep on going with this. If this is feeling right, if this is having a good settling effect for you, just keep doing it. All right, let's breathe 3 unhurried breaths. Beautiful. Whenever those 3 unhurried breaths are done for you, I invite you to look at your wrists and your ankles. Flex and unflex your wrists. Flex and unflex your wrists. Flex and unflex your wrists. Flex and unflex your ankles. Flex and unflex your ankles. Flex and unflex your ankles. Flex and unflex your wrists. Flex and unflex your ankles. Flex and unflex your wrists. Flex and unflex your ankles. And then do both motions at the same time for as long as you wish. Good. Keep going with that if it feels right. We'll breathe 3 unhurried breaths. When those 3 unhurried breaths are done for you, go and look at your forearms and your calves. Flex and unflex your forearms. Flex and unflex your forearms. Flex and unflex your forearms. Flex and unflex your calves. Flex and unflex your calves. Flex and unflex your calves. Flex and unflex your forearms. Flex and unflex your calves. Flex and unflex your forearms. Flex and unflex your calves. Flex and unflex your forearms. Flex and unflex your calves. Flex and unflex both your forearms and your calves at the same time for as long as you wish. Good. Now feel free to stay with that for as long as it feels right to you. Let's breathe 3 unhurried breaths. Beautiful. Next area you're going to work with are the elbows and the knees. Especially when it comes to flexing the knees, if you're sitting down, it may be hard to do a full flexing motion. There's two options here. You can simply shift your body position so that you can move your knees more. Or if, like me, you're going to remain in a cross-legged posture, that's okay. Just do the gentlest flexing you can while feeling safe and comfortable. All right, so looking at your elbows and your knees, or at least in their direction, flex and unflex the elbows. Flex and unflex the elbows. Flex and unflex the elbows. Flex and unflex the knees. Flex and unflex the knees. Flex and unflex the knees. Bend and unbend the elbows. Bend and unbend the knees. Bend and unbend the elbows. Bend and unbend the knees. Bend and unbend the elbows. Bend and unbend the knees. And then do both of those motions at the same time for as long as you wish. All right, go ahead and breathe 3 unhurried breaths. Nicely done. So now what I invite you to do is to look at your triceps and your quadriceps. Right? Those quadriceps are the muscles on the top of the upper leg. You might call them your thigh muscles. Look at them, or at least in their direction. Flex and unflex your triceps. Flex and unflex your triceps. Flex and unflex your triceps. Flex and unflex your quadriceps. Flex and unflex your quadriceps. Flex and unflex your quadriceps. Flex and unflex your triceps. Flex and unflex your quadriceps. Flex and unflex your triceps. Flex and unflex your quadriceps. Flex and unflex your triceps. Flex and unflex your quadriceps. Do both of those flexings at the same time for as long as you wish. Good. Remember, I'm going to move on, but feel free to stay here if it's feeling right. Let's breathe 3 unhurried breaths. Good. Now you're going to look at your biceps and your hamstrings, right, or at least in their direction. Go ahead and flex and unflex your biceps. Flex and unflex your biceps. Flex and unflex your biceps. Flex and unflex your hamstrings. Flex and unflex your hamstrings. Flex and unflex your hamstrings. Flex and unflex your biceps. Flex and unflex your hamstrings. Flex and unflex your biceps. Flex and unflex your hamstrings. Flex and unflex your biceps. Flex and unflex your hamstrings. Then do both of those motions at the same time for as long as you wish. Hamstrings and biceps. All right, beautiful job. Just a few more steps to go on this upward elevator. Go ahead and breathe 3 unhurried breaths. Beautiful. Now I invite you to look at your deltoids and your glutes, those butt muscles. It can be hard to look at them both at the same time, so just try to look in their general direction. Let your visual field be concentrated in those areas. Go and flex and unflex your deltoid. Flex and unflex your deltoids. Flex and unflex your deltoids. Now flex and unflex your glutes. Flex and unflex your glutes. Flex and unflex your glutes. Flex and unflex your deltoids. Flex and unflex your glutes. Flex and unflex your deltoids. Flex and unflex your glutes. Flex and unflex your deltoids. Flex and unflex your glutes. Do both of those motions at the same time for as long as you wish. Glutes and deltoids. Beautiful. So now what we're going to do is the final step of this upward elevator method. Nice job. We're almost to the finish. Go and breathe 3 unhurried breaths. Nicely done. Now, when those 3 unhurried breaths are done for you, what we're going to do is I invite you to look in the general direction of your navel. What we're going to do in this method is we're going to shrug and unshrug the shoulders, and then we're going to contract and release the pelvic floor. Now, if you've never done it before, contracting and releasing the pelvic floor can be a bit of an unusual motion. It may not be familiar and comfortable. So I'm going to give you some instructions today to help you with it. But if you're looking for more guidance, here's what I suggest you do. Look up Kegel exercises online. That's spelled Kegel. And that'll give you more guidance on how to contract and release this pelvic floor. The basic method is this. The pelvic floor lies between the genitals and the anus at the very bottom of the torso, an area sometimes called the taint. What I invite you to do is to flex and unflex this very bottom part of your torso. See if you can feel that muscle kind of balling up and releasing, balling up and releasing. So when I say to contract your pelvic floor, that's the motion I mean. All right, so to begin, shrug and unshrug your shoulders. Shrug and unshrug your shoulders. Shrug and unshrug your shoulders. Contract and release the pelvic floor. Contract and release the pelvic floor. Contract and release the pelvic floor. Shrug and unshrug your shoulders. Contract and release the pelvic floor. Shrug and unshrug your shoulders. Contract and release the pelvic floor. Shrug and unshrug your shoulders. Contract and release the pelvic floor. Do both of those motions at the same time for as long as you wish. Beautiful. All right, breathe 3 unhurried breaths. So what you just did there, moving through the limbs, area by area, wiggling and flexing as we go, that's called the elevator. And what we just did by starting at the toes and working our way up to the shoulders is we did an upward elevator. So if doing that helps you feel complete, you feel like you've broken some of those limbic loops, you're out of that hotbed of activity in the center line of the body, feeling more balanced into the limbs, you could stop right there. Remember, this method is break in case of emergency. So if you've done the upward elevator and you're like, I want more grounding, perfect. Do a downward elevator. Do the exact same motions we did, but just in the opposite order, starting with the shoulders and the pelvic floor, working your way down to the fingers and the toes. And you can do as many upward and downward elevators as you wish to get the grounding effect that you are seeking. Nice job. I invite you, give yourself a pat on the back. Go and squeeze yourself if that feels right. You've done yourself a great service by engaging in this practice today. I wish you good luck and good fortune, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.